morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we are going to look for the very, very first time on this channel at Dracovish. Our very first ever Dracovish card has gone and been revealed, and this seems like the kind of thing we need to have a bit of a chat about. Plus, it's the first one we've ever had, and it's really good. Does that bode well for the future? Maybe. For now, let's start off with the basics, shall we? So what we see here is 150 HP on a stage 1 Pokemon is big. Like, really quite big. The other fossil we'd previously seen was Arctozolt, and that had 130, which we liked. And this is even a step above that, so we're loving the HP. Retreat cost of 3 is kind of annoying because it puts you out of range of buff padding, which is a little bit sad. And similarly, the weakness to lightning is not ideal at all. We don't like it, because there's plenty of things out there like Pikachu and Zekrom. Now, having said that, Pikachu and Zekrom will get a one-hit KO anyway, and Tapu Koko V will get a one-hit KO anyway, and Zapdos doesn't hit for weakness, and Electro Power is going to be rotating out about when this comes out. So it's going to be more difficult for just random lightning Pokemon to get a KO. So maybe it's not going to be a big difference, but I rather suspect it might end up not being ideal, shall we say. Now, being a water Pokemon means you're hitting weakness on all of those Welded decks, which is very nice, and Welded decks are becoming more and more popular. Plus, it means you got Frostmoth to accelerate a little bit of energy, etc. And actually, yeah, I'm kind of digging being a water Pokemon. But what does it do? Well, the attack is fine. We'll get to the attack in a minute. That's, it's not really what we're working on here. What we're working on far more is the ability, and the ability's a good one. According to the lovely Antoine Boulet, as long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent cannot play Pokemon cards from their hand to evolve any of their Pokemon. Oh. That kind of changes things, ladies and gentlemen. You are literally shutting down evolution. Now, we have actually seen an ability along these lines in the not too distant past, a little while ago now, but we've seen one, and it was so good it literally ended up getting banned. But it wasn't the same. It was Archeops. Now, two things about Archeops made it ridiculous even compared to this. Number one, it worked on the bench. Now, it was a two-sided thing, incidentally. Dracovish only turns off your opponent's evolutions, not your own. So in that way, Dracovish is actually better. But Archeops worked on the bench, and Archeops had Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick, which could be used turn 1. So you could literally go first, get an Archeops out, and your opponent would not be able to evolve any of their Pokemon for the entire game. And, I mean, that just fits exactly the kind of card Pokemon wants to ban. It is literally just, I've gone first, oh look, now you cannot do anything for the entire game. And those are very much the cards over the past few years that Pokemon have been pretty swift to drop the ban hammer on. This is not that. It doesn't work on the bench. It only works in the active. And of course, the fact that it works in the active means your opponent can use stuff like Boss's Orders. Or honestly, if this became too popular, Fione would all of a sudden become a very, very popular Pokemon. Because it sits on the bench, and it's got the ability whereby you can put it from the bench on the bottom of your deck and force your opponent to switch their active Pokemon. Now, to be clear, your opponent gets a choice of which Pokemon to bring active. It's like the old Regirock that I used to use to move Spiritomb. And just like Spiritomb blocked item cards in the active, and just like when I was using Regirock to block Spiritomb, your opponent can get around this by playing 2. The counter to Regice, I said Regirock, I meant Regice, I put Regice on the screen. The counter to Regice was to just drop 2 Spiritomb, the counter to Fione is to just drop 2 Dracovish. And as soon as you do, Your opponent can't use something like Fiona because when they use the ability, you just put your other Dracovish active and yeah, we're there. That's all it actually does. Boo, hiss, etc. But then again, gusting like Boss's Orders or Pokemon Catcher absolutely would work as long as there was a valid target. If all you had on your field was Dracovish, then yay, your opponent can't get around it, but that's going to be a bit of a tall order. Now, the other thing to bear in mind here is it says can't play Pokemon from their hand to evolve any of their Pokemon. But they can still use stuff like, and we don't see many of these, but something like Red and Blue, for instance, lets you search your deck for a GX that evolves from one of your Pokemon and play it onto them. Something like that would totally still be playable with Dracovish in the active. Most decks, the vast majority of decks, aren't playing that. Certainly the old Spiritomb would have been awesome against this, but that's gone away as well at the moment. It's fine. We have answers, but I don't think many decks have particularly good answers. Now, I've said maybe try and get many of these out. We probably should address the whole fossil thing right now. Now, worth bearing in mind, this does not evolve from unidentified fossil. It evolves from rare fossil, which is not the same card. Which means you cannot use Pokemon Research Lab to grab this Pokemon out. Can't do it. Pokemon Research Lab lets you grab 2 Pokemon from your deck that evolve from unidentified fossil and put them straight onto your bench. Very good card if you're playing fossils. Doesn't work here. Now what we do have instead is the Relicanth from this particular set, and Relicanth for a single colourless energy lets you search your deck for up to 2 rare fossils and put them onto your bench. Now, you still need to evolve next turn, although again, at the beginning of your next turn, these will be on your bench ready to evolve, but it is very much worth pointing out here that it's not as easy as some of the other fossils we've got. Having said that, it's still only a stage 1. So all you need to do is bench your fossil, and then next turn, in theory, you can evolve up and you're ready to go. And remember, you're blocking evolutions. There are plenty of decks here, plenty of decks, that you will just be entirely blocking out of the game. Like to the point where your opponent literally cannot do anything whatsoever. But it really does depend on the deck. So, one trendy deck at the moment, because of all the Fighting Week stuff coming around, is Excadrill. Excadrill, very nice card. Generally played as a bit of a quad deck. Drillbur does naff all. I mean, it's actually got a really nice Rototiller attack. Get a card back from your discard, but attacking wise it does 10 damage. So against a just straight Excadrill deck, that incidentally they do play Fiona. That is an absolute staple, because it's a deck that kind of gets close to decking out a lot. So you do need to be prepared for that. Against something like Excadrill, double Dracovish will basically end the game. But let's say you're playing against Dragapult. Now, going up into a VMAX is evolving, so you turn off your opponent's VMAX. Okay. But Jet Assault is still going to do 140 damage when it becomes active. And pretty much all Dragapult decks around at the moment are playing stuff like Galarian Zigzagoon to drop the extra 10 damage, and then 4 Scoop Up Net. So the chances are this isn't really going to phase Dragapult at all. They're probably going to be alright with it, because it's going to be able to take you down fairly easily. The fact of the matter is, Dracovish can absolutely shut down entire decks. And they can absolutely wreck your opponent's plan, and it can be absolutely hilarious. But it will not work against all decks, and even decks it should work against, there's every possibility that your opponent is just going to be able to work around it. They're going to have a Pokemon that is going to have an answer. And if they do, that's not going to be ideal, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't going to be ideal. I suppose where I'm going with this is, nice as a tech, nice as part of a deck, maybe not a deck in and of itself. Although do remember, we've got hit and run decks like Morpeko, like Hitmonchan, that want to hit, go to the bench, and then stick something in the active. Against an evolution deck, this would be awesome in a hit and run deck, because of course, you whack this in the active, and then your opponent can't evolve, and then you retreat, etc. Having said that, the retreat cost of free is actually super annoying, because you won't get free retreat with an air balloon here. There isn't actually a tool we've got right now that will give you free retreat, which is really kind of annoying. Now, in terms of the attack, free energy, 120, it's fine. I mean, it will KO a lot of single prize Pokemon, things like Jirachi, things like Blacephalon, whether they're weak or not, will go down. It will 2-hit KO stuff like Pikachu and Zekrom. It will 2-hit KO any Pokemon V, even the biggest ones like Zamazenta. It's going to be free hit KOing VMAXs, and it's going to be free hit KOing a lot of tag teams, so yeah. 1-hit KO most single prize Pokemon, 2-hit KO most GXs and Vs, 3-hit KO. Generally, you should be 1-hit KOing a 1-prize Pokemon, 2-hit KOing a 2-prize Pokemon, and 3-hit KOing a 3-prize Pokemon, with the odd exception here or there. It's not a particularly good attack, it is a functional attack, it is a serviceable attack. The entire point is, this isn't a, I'm going to get set up and smash you with this attack kind of attack. This is a, well, you know what? If I get set up, you just have no answer to my deck, at which point all I need is a serviceable attack to get prizes not that slowly. And in that regard, it absolutely does the job. No one's going to play it for the attack. The attack isn't good enough. But if you're playing it for the ability, this is absolutely fine as an attack. And although it only accelerates to the bench, Frostmoth will get the energy on there quite easily here. So, you know, that's quite nice. It's got your back. Really, ladies and gentlemen, this is all about the ability. I love it for the ability. I'm giving it... Let's go 4 Wassies. I feel like that's too high. I feel like I should have dropped it a little bit, but I've said it now. 4 Wassies. I don't think this is an amazing card, which is going to win every game. But I do think that this has a huge amount of potential, and I do believe that at some point somebody's going to come around with this kind of deck that somebody, or at least a lot of somebody's, just aren't ready for, and they're going to win a lot of cheeky games because their opponent is not prepared to face against a deck that turns off their evolution. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, me nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.